This is the news hour on Trust TV. Scramble for Buhari's political empire begins ahead of 2027. President Tinubu renames University of Maiduguri after Buhari. Governor Muftuang visits attacked Plateau community, vows decisive action. On the foreign scene, French army leaves Senegal, ending military presence in West Africa. Hello and welcome to Trust News Hour on Trust TV. As Nigeria looks ahead to the 2027 general elections, the political landscape in North is shifting with the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The question is now dominating political circles is who will step into his shoes. Buhari, a towering figure in Nigerian politics, commanded a loyal base of over 12 million voters, a bloc that played a decisive role in multiple election cycles. Now with his absence, contenders are jostling for position, each hoping to inherit that powerful legacy. Tonight, we take a closer look at the emerging political heavyweight, the power play behind the scenes, and what it will mean for the future of northern politics and Nigeria as a whole. Now, President Bola Tinubu has renamed the University of Maiduguri in Borno State after ex-President Muhammadu Buhari. He made this known at the special session of the Federal Executive Council held on Thursday to honor former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died on July 13, 2025, at the age of 82. The meeting drew an expanded roster of the country's political branches and the late leader's family just 2 days after his burial in his hometown of Daura. Buhari's son Yusuf Buhari led 3 of his siblings into the hall.
His memory with this special session of the Federal Executive Council expanded, can we adopt the naming of University of Maiduguri with a new name as Muhammadu Buhari University Maiduguri?
Now, the federal government has pledged to continue supporting the family of the late President Muhammadu Buhari and also uphold his legacy. Vice President Kashim Shettima gave the assurance during a special prayer session at Buhari's Daura residence, marking the official end of condolence visit following the former president's passing. The report.
ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
We ask God to grant him mercy.
During the solemn event, Vice President Kashim Shettima offered prayers for the repose of the soul of the late former president and urged Nigerians to remain prayerful, asking Allah for forgiveness on his behalf and to emulate the values he stood for. He described Buhari as a man who had etched his name in gold and left a lasting impact on Nigeria and the African continent. The vice president emphasized that the late leader's achievements and service to the nation are too numerous to list, calling for more individuals of Buhari's caliber, particularly from northern Nigeria, to rise and continue his legacy.
President Muhammadu Buhari has proved to the world that he is indeed one of the greatest sons of Africa. May Allah grant his soul eternal rest and reward him and may Allah forgive his shortcomings.
He also commended the people of Katsina State for producing leaders who have significantly shaped Nigeria's history within the last 2 decades, urging continued discipline, commitment, and patriotism for national development.
أنت أعلم بسرهم والحمد لله.
Speaking on behalf of the Federal Executive Council, the Minister of State for Agriculture, Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, prayed Allah to grant the deceased Al-Jannah Firdausi and provide comfort to the bereaved family.
Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have directed again the continuation even after this prayer at the Federal Executive Council meeting that is going to be held in honor of our former president.
Governor Diko Umaru Rada, on behalf of the government and people of Katsina State, expressed gratitude to Nigerians and African leaders who stood in solidarity with the state and the country during this time of mourning.
And also for declaring a holiday in honor of our president yesterday. We thank you, we thank Mr. President. And to the entire people across the world who have sent their condolences to the people of Katsina State, to the entire family of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. I stand here on behalf of the family, the good people of Katsina State, to thank all of you.
Prominent Islamic scholars, including Abdullahi Balalo, Sani Yahya Jingir, Sheikh Makari, and Isa Ali Pantami, also led prayers seeking Allah's mercy and forgiveness for the late president. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television.
Now, as Nigeria looks ahead to the 2027 general elections, the political landscape in the north is shifting with the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. The question now dominating political circles is who will step into his shoes. Buhari, a towering figure in Nigerian politics, commanded a loyal base of over 12 million voters, a bloc that played a decisive role in multiple election cycles. Now with his absence, contenders are jostling for position, each hoping to inherit that powerful legacy. Tonight, we take a closer look at the emerging political heavyweight, the power play behind the scenes, and what it all means for the future of northern politics and Nigeria as a whole.
With the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria's political landscape has lost one of its most towering northern figures, a man who inspired fierce loyalty, commanded vast followership, and left behind an ideological vacuum. But as 2027 approaches, a critical question emerges: who takes over the Buhari political empire? Is it Atiku Abubakar, the serial presidential contender, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, the grassroots general, or Malam Nasir Rufai, the reformist and political firebrand? Let's break it all down. Atiku has been in the race longer than most. A two-time vice president, a five-time presidential contender, and a founding pillar of the PDP. He commands deep respect among political elites and holds strong electoral machinery in the northeast and also in parts of the south. His calls for restructuring and economic liberalism appeals to reform-minded Nigerians. But here's the challenge. Atiku is viewed by many as a perennial loser. After decades in the arena, he's yet to clinch the big prize. Age is not on his side, and his repeated defeats have thinned his followership, especially among young Nigerians and first-time voters. He may have the experience, but not the energy or momentum to inherit Buhari's mass base. If crowd pooling was the only criterion, Kwankwaso would already have the crown. The former Kano governor has built a loyal political army under the Kwankwasia movement with strong appeal among northern youths, students, and urban voters disillusioned with mainstream politics. In 2023, he shocked many by coming a strong fourth under the NNPP, sweeping Kano and making inroads in Jigawa, Katsina, and Kaduna. But can he scale up nationally? His reach beyond the north remains weak. Southern voters see him as too regional, and his movement, while loud, lacks the funding and the structure to dominate a national race. Unless he forms a broader coalition, Kwankwaso has the street, but not yet the state. Smart, strategic, and controversial. Malam Nasser El-Rufai is no stranger to national influence. As FCT Minister and Kaduna State Governor, he earned a reputation for bold reforms and tough leadership. Within APC circles, he is regarded as a power broker, deeply respected and often feared. Unlike Kwankwaso and Atiku, El-Rufai is more elite-facing. He speaks the language of policy, not populism. His stance on restructuring, deregulation, and governance reform echoes Buhari's technocratic side. But here's the snag. Malam Nasser El-Rufai is divisive. His tenure in Kaduna was marked by tension, religious, ethnic, and political. His public spots, centralist leanings, and recent corruption probes dent his image. And crucially, his base is more elite than electoral. He may inherit Buhari's ideological lane, but not necessarily his mass followership. Atiku Abubakar, the PDP's serial presidential contender, has resigned from the party that defined his last 2 decades. Tired? Maybe. Done? Not just yet. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, once the NNPP's shining light, has been ousted by the very structure he helped build. He may be out of the party, but Kwankwasia is still roaring on the streets of Kano and beyond. Malam Nasser El-Rufai, APC's brain and backrooms beast, has walked away from a party he helped build amid rising tension with the Tinubu camp and a calculated silence that's making more noise than a campaign rally. But the big question is, can they deliver Buhari's base? Let's be honest, Buhari's followership was not just about politics.
Hey! See my Buhari! Yes, Baba!
It was about symbolism, integrity, simplicity, religion, order. Atiku has the name, but years of elite positioning and corruption tags dent his grassroots magic. Kwankwaso has the crowd, the color, and the charisma, but struggles beyond the northern borders. El-Rufai has the intellect and the ideology, but not the emotional bond with the masses. None of them alone is Buhari, but together, well, maybe they could recreate something close, a fusion of influence, numbers, and brains. But here's the danger zone. Coalitions in Nigeria are like arranged marriages. They are great on paper, but messy in practice. Who leads? Who steps back? Who funds it? What's the platform? Ego has killed more alliances in Nigeria than elections. And unless the trio can swallow pride, align visions, and take the South along, 2027 will be just another missed moment. So here's the bottom line. With Buhari gone and the APC under new leadership, the political empire he once commanded is now up for grabs. Atiku, Kwankwaso, and El-Rufai, once rivals, now stand at a critical crossroad. Their choices in the coming months may not only shape the 2027 elections, but redefine the balance of power in post-Buhari Nigeria. So, for now, Buhari's political empire remains without a clear heir. And as 2027 draws closer, the real battle may not be over who replaces Buhari, but who reinvents what he once represented.
Now, Plateau State Governor Caleb Manasseh Muftuang has visited Bender community in Riom local government area, where suspected armed men launched a deadly attack, killing at least 27 people, including women. Trust TV report that the assault left many others injured and resulted in the destruction of several homes. Ado Musa completes the reports.
Residents say the attackers stormed the community in the middle of the night while most people were asleep, leaving behind a trail of death and destruction. During his visit, Governor Mutfwan condemned the attack in strong terms. He acknowledged the efforts of security agencies but alleged that there are bad elements within their ranks who may be complicit in the violence. He assured the people of his administration's commitment to ending the recurring violence in the area.
But let me promise you, Riom will not come down. By the grace of God, we will use every means at our disposal to make sure that this genocide comes to an end. I don't know who will tell me that what happened yesterday is farmers' herders clash. This is an act of terrorism. This is pure genocide, and I can assure you that we'll escalate this matter. Please be patient. I want you to be patient.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Riyadh, Dawo Musa, said the attackers succeeded in overpowering security personnel deployed in the area, allowing them to carry out the assault.
That we are coming here, overpower their men, and they block their men, so they don't have entrance to this community, and that led to this massacre.
While sympathizing with the grieving community, Governor Mutfwang urged residents to remain resilient and steadfast in protecting their ancestral lands and heritage. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Now, troops of 3 Division Operation Safe Haven have neutralized 2 bandits and recovered weapons and ammunition in Plateau State. A statement from the spokesman for the Military Special Task Force, Major Samson Zakom, said the operation was carried out on Wednesday, following credible intelligence on plans by bandits to attack communities at Nteng in Kwan Pan local government area. Zakom noted that the said troops led ambush for the bandits and made contact with them, resulting in a gunfire exchange. According to him, 2 bandits were neutralized while others fled with possible gunshot wounds, leaving behind bloodstains along their withdrawal routes. Zakom added that recovered weapons and ammunition during the operation are currently in their custody for further action, while troops are now on the trail of the fleeing bandit for interception. Police command in Sokoto State has announced the arrest of a suspected Lakura bandit and recovery of an AK-49 rifle with ammunition, following a swift intelligence-led operation. The Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Musa, disclosed this in a statement issued on Thursday by the command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Ahmed Rufai. According to Musa, operatives of the command's anti-kidnapping unit acted decisively on credible intelligence on Sunday, leading to the arrest of one Buba Magaji from Julir Kol village in Silami local government area. The commissioner added that following his lead, police operatives on Wednesday conducted a meticulous search of the area and recovered an AK-49 rifle, a magazine and 22 rounds of live ammunition. Musa described the arrest and arms recovery as a significant breakthrough in the ongoing efforts to rid the state of criminal element. The CB commended the vigilance of community members whose tip-off led to the successful operation and urged continued public cooperation in the fight against crimes. Now, Justice Marian Anini of the Federal Capital Territory High Court says the travel passport of the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, is not in its custody, but with the Federal High Court Abuja. Justice Anini made this known on Thursday at the resumed hearing of the alleged money laundering case instituted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, against the former Kogi governor. She held that the court would have considered the application for the release of the defendant's travel document if it were to be in its custody. The judge said even if the request to retrieve the travel passport were to be granted, it will be of no effect since the passport was not in the custody of the court, but before Justice Eneke Nwite of the Federal High Court. The former governor is facing similar charges as at both the FCT and the Federal High Court Abuja. He had requested the release of his passport to enable him travel out of the country on health grounds. His counsel, Joseph Daudu San, had earlier submitted that the travel passport being requested was not in the custody of the courts. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has extended the continuous voter registration in Anambra State ahead of the state governorship election. This decision was reached during its regular weekly meeting on Thursday in Abuja. The meeting reviewed the ongoing preparation for the forthcoming off-cycle governorship election in Anambra State and further update on applications for registration by new political parties. The commission said it is pleased with the turnout of registrants in Anambra State and the peaceful conduct of the CVR in all 320 326 registration centers in the state. It revealed that as of Wednesday, 16th July 2025, 96,085 new voters have successfully registered in 9 days. And on average, the Commission said it registered over 10,600 voters per day, adding that in addition to that, 12,595 voters applied for transfer of their registration both within and outside the state, while 7,061 persons applied for update of their records of the replacement of their damaged or lost permanent voters' cards. This is the news hours on Trust TV. Coming up after the break. Nigerians question JAMB's integrity, relevance amid exam glitches, rising challenges. More news when we return. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is the news hour on Trust TV. Let's take a look at our top stories again. Scramble for Buhari's political empire begins ahead of 2027. And President Tinubu renamed University of Maiduguri after Buhari. Now, as part of effort to build a better Nigeria that prioritizes the interests of its citizens and ensures more credible elections, stakeholders have called for the creation of a citizens' constitution. They also urged the National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act of 2022. This call was made at the National Summit on the Future of Nigeria's Constitutional Democracy. Neil Samson reports.
At the summit, stakeholders emphasized the urgent need not just for a new constitution, but for the one that reflects the will and aspirations of the people. Key issues discussed include electoral reforms on how to improve Nigeria's electoral system for greater transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability.
We are not concerned with the citizen. If we're going to rebuild Nigeria, it has to be on the basis of a nation of citizens, not a nation that we elite want. This is what we have been getting wrong. We're talking about how we want to see Nigeria. Nobody's talking about the federation of citizens. First, identify the citizen. Go back to the Constitution. Read Chapter 2, the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Read what is in there. That's the closest we came to defining what Nigeria should be, how Nigeria should govern, what ideals we should shape.
Wishes to look at the electronic system of voting. And I wish to submit without any fear of contradiction that Nigerian courts are totally opposed to the introduction of any form of electronic voting. In 2010 2010 Electoral Act, amended in 2015 by the Jonathan administration, empowered INEC to adopt any method, any procedure, fit to conduct credible elections in Nigeria.
Speakers at the event stressed that constitutional democracy is vital because it combines majority rule with the protection of individual rights and freedoms as enshrined in the Constitution. Such a system, they said, ensures accountability in governance, checks abuse of power, and promotes national stability. They concluded that by upholding the rule of law and limiting the powers of government, constitutional democracies help create a more just, equitable, and inclusive society, underscoring the relevance and urgency of the summit's discussions. End.
Now, as gender-based violence, GBV, continues to rise in parts of northern Nigeria, the Emir of Dutse, Muhammadu Buhari, has called on leaders across all sectors to unite in tackling the growing crisis. The Emir made this appeal while receiving a delegation from the Development Research and Project Center, DRPC, and the Center for Islamic Civilization and Interfaith Dialogue, Bayero University, at his palace in Dutse. The team's visit was part of the gender-based violence prevention project supported by the Ford Foundation. The report.
Describing violence against women as both un-Islamic and morally reprehensible, the Emir stressed that Islam upholds the rights and dignity of women, children, and all vulnerable groups. He emphasized that protecting these rights is not only a legal responsibility, but also a religious duty.
Mace ita ce uwa al'umma,
Women are the backbone of the society. They nurture and educate our children both morally and academically. If we neglect their importance, we endanger the very fabric of our society. The Emir urged religious scholars, policymakers, and researchers to study Islamic teachings more deeply in order to develop practical faith-based responses to GBV. He also called for intensified awareness campaigns, especially in rural communities where such violence is more prevalent. Earlier, the director of the Center for Islamic Civilization and Interfaith Dialogue, Professor Taufik Abubakar, noted that the Muslim Opinion Leaders GBV Prevention Project has already sensitized over 150 Friday imams, 100 Sharia court judges, and 60 female Islamic teachers across northern Nigeria.
You actually look at a woman in Islam from the injection of the Islam as a fragile person, a person that has to be treated with extra care and with extra caution. That is why we find a lot of injunction in the Quran, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that treat them with fairness, with equity.
He highlighted Islamic principles that strictly forbid violence, stating that Islam obliges men to care for their families with compassion, particularly during vulnerable periods such as childbirth. The project coordinator Umar Ahmad Umar explained that the initiative is rooted in Quranic teachings and prophetic traditions that promote respect, care, and dignity for women.
We're actually here because we're expanding the work to Jigawa, Bauchi, and Niger states. We're already working in Kano and Kaduna, so we are planning to expand the work to Jigawa, Kaduna, and Niger states. And we want His Highness' blessing and support in terms of the implementation of our activities.
Another member of the team, Aisha Tijani, noted that the project will soon expand its activities to Jigawa and Bauchi states as part of broader efforts to eradicate gender-based violence across the region.
Now, the Adamawa State Planning Commission and the United Nations Population Fund UNFPA are partnering to strengthen efforts geared towards combating gender-based violence GBV and promoting sexual reproductive health across the state. A 3-day workshop, stakeholders explored ways to reduce the total number of recorded GBV cases, which stood at 582 as of 2024, according to the National Human Rights Commission. Trust TV's Gibson Swadigu report from Yola.
Sexual and reproductive health.
It was a gathering of passionate minds and committed individuals as representatives from government agencies, civil society organizations, and health institutions converged on Yola for an intensive 3-day workshop on gender-based violence and sexual reproductive health. Organized by the Adamawa State Planning Commission in collaboration with UNFPA, the workshop aimed to enhance the capacity of stakeholders to implement effective GBV response mechanism in their communities. With cases of gender-based violence still a significant concern in Adamawa State, this workshop serves as a timely intervention, equipping frontline actors with the knowledge and tools needed to create safe, just, and inclusive communities.
We're talking about MIS, we're talking about information management. We have to use the data to ensure that the information gotten are based on the data which will be used for decision-making in the state, in the areas of GBV and SRH. So it's a very serious business for all organizations that are in the CTA, that is called to action on GBV.
Facilitators guided participants through global best practices in GBV case management, referral pathways, legal frameworks, and survivor center support services. Discussions also centered on data collection tools, community sensitization techniques, and the importance of multi-sectoral collaboration.
Enlighten and create awareness around GBV and sexual and reproductive health, and also to guide in the development of the 5W metrics reporting template.
Partners are hopeful that these efforts will lead to stronger action and protection for the most vulnerable individuals in the community. Gibson So Adugo, Trust TV News, Yola.
Now, frustrations are mounting among Nigerians as many begin to question the integrity and relevance of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB. These concerns follow a series of controversies involving the board, including its admission of errors in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME result due to a technical glitch during the result processing. Trust TV's correspondent in Benue State captured public reactions from Makurdi, the state capital, where some citizens are insisting that JAMB may have outlived its usefulness. The reports.
Amid criticisms and backlash, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board JAMB, in collaboration with key stakeholders in tertiary education, has approved the national minimum UTME cutoff scores for the 2024 admission cycle. At this year's annual policy meeting held in Abuja, 150 was adopted as the minimum score for university admissions, 100 for polytechnics and colleges of education, and 140 for colleges of nursing across Nigeria. This implies that no tertiary institutions may admit students who score below these thresholds, although individual schools may set higher cutoff marks for their programs. The announcement comes in the wake of JAMB's admission for a technical error that affected the 2025 UTME results at 157 centers nationwide. Despite measures taken to correct the situation, the public criticism continues to intensify, with many Nigerians, especially on social media, expressing deep dissatisfaction with JAMB's performance, questioning both its credibility and relevance in the current educational landscape. Some argue that JAMB no longer fulfills its intended role in regulating admissions into tertiary institutions. Another major concern is the high failure rate, with over 70% of candidates consistently scoring below 200 over the past 3 years. Parents and students also continue to raise issues with the computer-based test CBT system, which has frequently experienced technical failures since its introduction. Public perception suggests that students often travel long distances to examination centers only to be let down by malfunctioning systems or administrative lapses. Despite these challenges, some stakeholders still recognize the vital role JAMB plays in standardizing the transition from the secondary to tertiary education in Nigeria.
Yeah, JAMB continues to remain relevant in terms of assessment of learners who are transiting from post-basic schools to the tertiary. It has brought about standards in admissions across all levels of the tertiary school, and for now that there is no alternative to that transitioning, it still remains relevant, and we cannot say there's another way in Nigeria to do that. If you go to other countries in the world, there are different pathways to getting admission into tertiary schools. But in Nigeria, that remains the only viable option, except when you have remedial programs around schools. But even when you have remedial programs in the tertiary schools, necessarily you need to go back to have those JAMB entry documentation, even in part-time institutions like the National Open University.
To acknowledge JAMB's importance in the educational sector, but questions the board's monopoly of admissions. He noted that recent lapses were the result of an overwhelming mandate and insufficient digital infrastructure.
JAMB is the only body saddled with this responsibility. It is having that monopoly. And of course, once we begin to see the inadequacies of JAMB and problems regarding the examination, like what happened this year, where over 78% of candidates who wrote didn't get up to 200 marks to enter normally into tertiary schools, then you see that there is this monopoly is not for the good of the Nigerian populace, especially the candidates, especially the parents, especially critical stakeholders who are concerned about it. It's very sad because of that monopoly, the whole JAMB is the whole thing is over centralized. They may not even have the capacity, the personnel, and then the digital technology that is needed, those facilities for them to be able to conduct this exam for millions of Nigerians.
For school administrators, the reduction in minimum cutoff marks is seen as a dangerous trend that could encourage laxity among students and ultimately lead to decline in educational standards.
I'm strongly against it, because when I read that, I said, what do these people want in this country? Because if you are in the system and you see what the students are doing these days, they are no longer serious. So reducing the marks from 180 to 150, you are encouraging even those very unserious ones to get into universities. And when they get there, what happens? They depend on others. We give assignments there. They look for someone that intelligent, and then the person does the work, and then they submit at the end. So it will affect the standard of education.
Ahembe emphasized the need for JAMB to address critical gaps in its operations to restore public confidence.
Because of what happened, they should sit up and then look and check where the mistake came from, where the failure came from, so that they can now, work on it and then improve on it.
In response to the growing concerns, stakeholders are recommending a complete overhaul of JAMB. Proposals include adopting an advanced digitally secured examination model that allows candidates to sit for exams from home or from certified local centers. They are also calling for reintegration of real-time monitoring, facial recognition, and AI-based surveillance systems to safeguard the integrity of the UTME process.
Now, dealers in palm oil and sellers of palm fruits are raising concerns over the growing impact of insecurity on farmlands, which they say is affecting both production costs and the timely delivery of products to final consumers. As a result, they are calling on the federal government to urgently address the issue of herdsmen attacks on agricultural lands. The report.
In an economy weighed down by inflation, a weakening currency, and the rising cost of living, many Nigerians are turning to agriculture in search of sustainable wealth. Among agricultural products, palm fruits and palm oil are considered symbols of prosperity, especially in the eastern region of the country. However, recent years have seen a steep decline in palm oil farming due to worsening insecurity across production areas. In Lagos State, dealers lament that herdsmen-related disruptions, including attacks and the killing of palm tree climbers, have significantly reduced production volumes and led to sharp price increases. Speaking with Trust Television, some palm oil dealers expressed deep concern over the growing insecurity on farmlands and its devastating effect on their businesses.
The problem everybody is facing is nothing but this insecurity, because the kidnappers, the herdsmen, they don't allow people to enter inside farm. So that's why, as of today, palm oil, this 25 liters, not supposed to be more than at least 30,000, but now it's up to 50,000.
They come directly from Delta, Niger Delta. The challenge we are having is the farmers' predicament going into the farm. With the problem of the herdsmen, it is not easy. So most of them don't go. They depend on labor. And when they depend on labor, it will be difficult for you to assess your price, because it must surely go up. Then the transportation too is also affecting them. And once it affects them, it must surely affect us. It's always the last user that suffers mostly, because whoever that buy must add whatever he spent into what is going to sell.
We are buying 48,000 naira, but now the rate of the palm oil now in the market, they are selling 60. They are selling 60 in the market now. So when we want to sell, we sell 63 because of the expenses and all that.
Palm fruit sellers also shared similar frustrations. They decried the increasing cost of palm fruits, which they say is hurting their sales. They highlighted the long delays in sourcing and transporting the fruits from farm to market and eventually to final customers.
Sometimes, because of the road issue, sometimes we might not get it. Maybe it's supposed to come on Monday, we'll get it on Tuesday because of road, the transport of the thing. They said sometimes the road, they didn't get the bus, I'll be the truck that bring the banga to this place. Sometimes they said there's a problem on the road, they have issue on the road, you cannot get it.
So this time is not the season for palm kernel. Now, the palm kernel doesn't ripe on time because of rainy season. And secondly, more people don't climb up. to cut it. So it's not the season.
Very expensive. 1 3. 1 3 Derica, 2 5, 2 3, 5,000 fine. It's very expensive. People are complaining. Say it's too high. That is why we take us time before we sell it because of the price.
As Nigeria seeks to diversify its economy beyond crude oil and reduce reliance on imports, palm oil and its byproducts represent a clear avenue for economic growth. However, to harness this potential, the government must urgently tackle insecurity, particularly herdsmen attacks on farmlands, so that more crops can be harvested and made available for the benefit of all Nigerians.
Now, as both public and private schools prepare to wrap up third-term academic activities, a recurring debate has once again emerged whether or not to enroll children in summer holiday classes. While some parents believe these classes are essential for preparing students for new academic challenges, others argue that the break should be a time for family bonding, moral upbringing, and personal exploration beyond academics. Jonathan Awanyai, who visited Asaba, the Delta State capital, spoke with some parents on the matter, report that it was a mixed bag of responses from the parents.
In the past, school holidays were a time of anticipation and excitement for both students and parents. They provided much-needed breaks from routine, a chance to visit extended family, learn new skills, or even assist parents in their businesses. But that narrative is gradually changing, especially with the growing trend among private schools to organize structured summer classes. These classes vary in focus, duration, and format, but are often designed to reinforce academic skills, revise previous topics, and give students a head start for the next session. However, this trend has sparked a range of reactions from parents and education stakeholders. Some parents told Trust TV that enrolling their children in summer classes immediately after exams helped them stay engaged academically, build confidence, and improve their social and collaborative skills.
Most times they play a lot during the holidays. They get distracted, and if you don't take them for summer classes, when you resume, most of the things that they've learned over the term, the previous term, they tend to forget. So the summer class is kind of a program they organize for them to be able to have a recap, go over what they have learned over the term, the previous terms, first, second, and third term, so that by the time we resume, they are addressed their previous knowledge.
It's very much needful to take your child to summer classes. First, you can not just be totally inclined or agree to that period when they are in school is in session. Summer classes are to give that child moral standard of learning and helping that child to still activate the speed of intellect. And two, my advice to a lot of parents is to give your child that summer classes in a proper environment.
On the flip side, others argue that summer holidays should be strictly for rest and reflection. They believe parents should use the break to reconnect with their children, assess their academic progress, and instill values and morals that may not be adequately covered in the school curriculum.
Personally, I feel you can take them to summer classes, but not immediately school closes. You can give them a break of like 1 week or 2 weeks so they can feel the motherly and parental love. Don't just, because most times when they go to school, I don't have to spend time with them. We don't have that time. Because when they come back, most times they are tired, they sleep, the next day they go to school. So once they close, you just take them to summer classes. That connection, that bonding, it's good to take them for summer classes, but I feel not immediately school closes. Just have some time, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You can take them out, bond with them before you can think of summer class.
For them to, go through exam processes and school processes at a period of time, they need to rest to calm their brain for a period of time in order to get themselves again. Mostly, it's very important for the parents to take notice of their children after school runs, school activities. You understand? So they need to take time to go through their children to know their level of academic, their level of education, how they are. You don't just send your child to summer classes.
Meanwhile, some educationists have raised concerns that students are gradually losing the true meaning of holidays. They criticize the practice of sending children straight from the classroom into yet another round of structured learning, suggesting that some parents use summer classes as a means to offload parental responsibilities. Jonathan Awanyai, Trust TV News, Asaba.
Now, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, has enforced the International Ship and Port Facility Security ISPS code by shutting down the Shellpox and TMDX facilities, both located in the Ijegun-Egba area of Lagos. The agency took this decisive action due to the facility's persistent non-compliance with the ISPS code, despite repeated warnings. This move underscores NIMASA's commitment to upholding global maritime security standards and safeguarding Nigeria's maritime domain. The head public relations at NIMASA, Edward Osagi, explained that the enforcement action follows persistent non-compliance by the facilities with the provision of the ISPS code, despite several formal warnings. Osagi disclosed that the move aligned with global best practices and in accordance with Section 79F of the ISPS Code Implementation Regulations 2014, which mandate the closure of any facility that remains in violation of over 3 calendar months. Speaking on the development, the Director General of NIMASA, Dayo Moberola, emphasized the agency's commitment to safeguarding Nigeria's maritime domain. You are still watching News Hour on Trust TV. We will take a very short break. When we return, the news continues. Welcome back. And now in business, the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, PCNGI, has denounced a recent media report that the list of approved conversion centers was removed from the PCNGI's website to suppress information. In a statement released on Thursday and signed by Brand and Corporate Communications Manager Matilda Johnson, the initiative clarified that the website is undergoing scheduled update. Johnson stated that the initiative has recorded landmark achievement since its inception, including facilitating over $800 million both in private and public investment, creating more than 100,000 direct and indirect jobs, and significantly advancing Nigeria's transition to cleaner energy. She cited the recent large-scale deployment by the Dangote Group, which include 4,000 CNG-powered trucks, 100 virtual pipeline vehicles, and multiple daughter stations as a major endorsement of PCNGI's progress. Johnson also noted that PCNGI's partnership with local macro, small, and medium-sized enterprises has resulted in a rapid expansion of vehicle conversion centers. The PCNGI reaffirmed its commitment to public accountability, clean energy expansion, and national development, urging the media to play its part in fostering a fact-based, responsible public discourse. Now, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, on Wednesday kicked off a two-day performance review session with companies currently holding gas distribution licenses. A statement by the operators said the review is in compliance with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. The PIA mandates the regulator review to ensure and monitor performance parameters of the industry and the quality of service provided by licensed operators. According to NMDPRA, the review focused on regulatory compliance, operational efficiency, and health, safety, environment, and compliance standards of the licensed gas distribution activities. The development comes as Nigeria grapples with low power generation, with the federal government looking to pump up gas production and usage in the country. President of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, recently said there was no justification for Nigeria's low power generation output, arguing that if his conglomerate alone can produce over 1,500 megawatts for internal use. The country should be generating far more. Now, the first half of 2025 recorded strong momentum across multiple asset classes, with total market capitalization of NGX-listed instruments rising by 16% from 112.60 trillion naira in January to 126.73 trillion naira by June. A statement by the Nigerian exchange group NGX Group on Wednesday said the growth was largely driven by equities, which increased from 62.76 trillion naira to 75.95 trillion naira. Fixed income remained stable at 50.56 trillion naira, while ETFs gained traction among retail investors, rising to 25.79 billion naira. Speaking on the performance, Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the NGX Group, Temi Popola, attributed the impressive performance of the nation's stock market in the first half of 2025 to deliberate focus on structural reforms and strong regulatory engagement. Over 4.63 trillion naira in capital was raised in H1 2025 through the exchange, spanning corporate and sovereign instruments. This capital played a key role in financing infrastructure, supporting enterprises' growth, and supporting innovation. And away from Nigeria, France on Thursday formally handed back its last two military bases in Senegal, leaving Paris with no permanent camps in either West or Central Africa. The pullout, which ends the French Army's 65 years in Senegal, mirrors similar withdrawals across the continent, where ex-colonies are increasingly turning their backs on their former ruler. The move comes as the Sahel region faces a growing conflict across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that is threatening Gulf of Guinea nations to the south. A recent string of attacks this month in Mali included an assault on a town on the border with Senegal. France returned Camp Geli, its largest base in the West African country, and its airfield at Dakar Airport, in a ceremony attended by top French and Senegalese officials. They include Senegalese Chief of Staff General Mbaye Cissé and General Pascal Iani, and the head of the French forces in Africa. Cissé said the handover marked an important turning point in the rich and long military journey of our two countries. Now, heavy rains have been linked to 54 deaths in the past 24 hours in Pakistan, taking the toll to about 180 since the arrival of the monsoon in late June. The government disaster agency said on Thursday, torrential rain has poured almost without pause across parts of Punjab province since Wednesday morning, causing urban flooding and houses to collapse. Rescue teams used boats to evacuate families from villages along the river further south in the morning, but the water had begun to recede by the afternoon. Residents living in low-lying areas near the Nulla River that runs through Rawalpindi city, neighboring the state capital Islamabad, were ordered to evacuate after a sharp rise in the water level. The Rawalpindi government declared a public holiday on Thursday to keep people at home, with the National Meteorological Department warning that heavy rain would continue until Friday, around 180 people have been killed, including 70 children, and about 500 injured since the start of the monsoon on June 26, according to the disaster agency. And it's now time for Sport Update with Joseph Peter.
Flying Eagles of Nigeria have emerged as Group A winners at the 2025 WAFU Zone B Under-20 Boys Cup after Ghana's Black Satellites secured a narrow 1-0 victory over the Young Squirrels of Benin Republic on Wednesday at the Ghana Man Soccer Center of Excellence in Pram Pram. In their opening match, Nigeria's commanding 4-1 win over Benin gave them the upper hand, while their 1-1 draw against Ghana proved crucial in securing the top spot. Ghana qualified dramatically after being reduced to 10 men following Kelvin Nkrumah's second yellow card just before halftime. However, the Black Satellites showed resilience and composure by ensuring they kept the opponent at bay until just 7 minutes into the second half when Bless again netted the decisive goal, slotting home after a well-timed through pass from Captain Aziz Misbahu to win the game. The win confirms Ghana's second place in the group and a place in the semi-finals where they are likely to face group leaders and defending champions, the Ivory Coast, in a high-stake clash on Sunday. Nigeria's opponents will be the runners-up of Group B, which will be decided after the conclusion of the group's final round of matches. Both Nigeria and Ghana will now shift their focus to the knockout stage as they continue their quest for regional glory and spot in the tournament's final. As reiterated by the Nigerian Flying Eagles coach Justin Madugu, this tournament is considered as an avenue to fine-tune and prepare for the Under-20 World Cup to be hosted by Chile later this year, come 27 September to 19 October 2025. The third combined African Athletics Under-18 Under-20 Championship is underway in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, with about 43 countries participating in the annual championships in field and track events. 92 athletes are representing Nigeria at the event holding at the Moshood Abiola Sports Arena in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. The Director General of the National Sport Commission, Bukola Olakpade, expressed optimism that the competition will produce new and emerging athletes for continental and world championships.
Have the job and responsibility to make sure Nigeria excel. So we're looking forward to a good outing by Nigeria through the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. More importantly for us at the Sports Commission is that we want to be able to decide.
And with that, we have come to the end of the News Hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all our media platforms and also watch us live on YouTube for more news programs and documentaries. My name is Idris Ayobature, thanking you for being with us. Goodbye for now.